kicking this off here. I believe that we are feeding out to the folks out there in the world, to the peoples, all around the internet on Player. And then I'm trying to grab a gun right here. You guys are joining us live on Player, formerly known as Utreon, so we can hold shooters here, which I'm going to show. This is kind of like my little... I haven't even shot this yet, but it's my little baby.
Your lighting is very dark.
Hey, I got 3 new shooters coming.
Oh, my lighting is dark. Yeah, I'll get my lighting up. Okay, let's see what... Patrick's got nothing. He's white and pasty. You don't have anything either, Walter. Also...
I got my beautiful... Look, I got my patch up here. Check out my patch.
And now he's flashing. He's flashing me or whatever. So
he's a Yuki. Flashing his Yuki patch, right?
Yeah, let me know how the lighting is out there. Boom, there we go. All right, there we go. Lighting,
you're whiter.
audio,
that's better. You whitened
everything. Everything should be good flowing out to the people here. So you join us live so that we can actually hold guns like this and show them off and pet them very nicely like this. If you pet them nicely, they will grow, they will eat, and they will always take care of you. So there you go. What are you showing off now, Walt? Oh, is that a starter pistol?
That's flare gun.
I mean, you can't even hold this on YouTube. So that's
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. That is very cool. Yes. So you want to do this, you go to Player/Who Moved My Freedom. That's the place to find us. You're listening to this on audio later for the folks all around the world. You're watching this on YouTube later on. You want to know how to join us live, go over to Player/Who Moved My Freedom. As I always tell you guys, if you give us some money through this, 33% of it will go to BabyFace, 33% will go to Walter as well.
I never signed up for that payment program.
You're on there. Oh, okay. So it's a total waste. All right.
The money is going into his account. He just can't pull the money out.
Yeah.
I'm rich.
You should look. You probably have money sitting.
It's probably money there. I know. Let's kick it off. Let's get it going
where's
here.
This account?
Let's get it going. Hold on.
It's a Utreon. It's on Utreon.
Can I press the button?
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation. Lifestyles of the Locked and Loaded.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Franklin Armory. Franklin Armory provides 100% US-made firearms and awesome binary option triggers. Their focus and purpose is to provide freedom tools to all Americans, especially those in not-so-free states. So when you're in the market, please consider Franklin Armory. Oh, and it goes to the totally wrong thing. Okay, here, let's go. Let's do this. There you go. Boom. And hit the... Boom. There you go. Okay, let's get the jazz hands going. There you go, jazz hands. I hope you guys got your big girl panties on. We are live.
Jazz hands.
We are live. This is the Who Moved My Freedom podcast. It's episode 989. And it's FreeForAll Monday. Of course, I've got BabyFace P joining us. There he goes, right there, BabyFace P. Walter Keller also joining us here. There he goes. And myself, we are supposed to have, and we may still have, I don't know, Rick Vasquez, formerly of the ATF Tech Branch, joining us. I don't know. We still may get him. We're working on it. Lola's working on it right now in the background. So other than that, you got FreeForAll Monday going on. What's up, people?
If anybody out there has reloading dies or some spare ammo sitting around for 30 Remington, let me know.
What now? Oh, 30. So you're going to do that?
Remington.
Oh, it's paid for. It's done.
Yeah, he's
that's a really, really cool kind of historic kind of shooter. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, it fills two niches. So for anybody wondering, I have put money towards a Remington Model 8 and 30 Remington. I'll let everybody know when it comes in. It should be going to Hank's hopefully soon.
Which means the minute it gets here, I'll be getting texted.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be tracking it. It fills two niches. One, my love for everything Browning, so all Browning firearms. And two, lineage up to the AK. And you'll see when it comes in, we'll take a look at it, that it's got some AK things.
The safety lever.
Yep.
What you got to really find is that extended magazine thing, man. If you can find one of those, that's one of the in the world of gun magazines, that's one of the what do you call
Holy
it?
grails.
Holy grails of Type 96 Japanese machine gun mags. That's one of them.
Yeah.
And 99 mags, and then those mags for that shooter, which was a custom. God,
Yeah.
that's a fucking.
Yeah, they did them. They did them for police departments back then.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That
So
was a heavy
that was
hitter.
like
a big mag.
Yeah. And then you got 30 Remington, and they also made that in 35 Remington, if I'm not mistaken.
So interestingly, 35 was the most popular. Most of them were made in 35 Remington. 30 was not as popular, and then 32 and 25. But the deal came along. I thought it was a good price, so I said screw it, and we'll have to make it up to Marley.
You know what's funny to me? How Patrick, and this is like probably every gun guy. It's not just Patrick. It's not just his problems. But you know what? He don't have no money, and then he comes across something, and just magically he will find some money.
Oh, we got plenty of money. I got plenty of money in the bank. I just shouldn't be spending it, and I'm probably now in trouble. So I gotta cut my spending because I got a Father's Day gift.
Because it magically came from somewhere.
I will sit.
No baby formula this month.
I will sit and labor over buying some little $50-$30 piece or something, and think if I can get it cheaper. When the right gun deal pops up, it happens so damn fast. You can't even.
Walter, I'm in the same boat. I tried. So the guy also had a complete A2 upper Colt.
I would
M16.
Fuck that A2 upper. Get that freaking Remington.
I know. No, I did the same. I was like, I want the Model 8, and then but I tried to bargain. I was like, how much would it run if you would send me the A2 upper as well? And he's like, I already have somebody that wants the A2. I was like, okay, I'll take I want the Model 8.
Boom.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can get an A2 upper. That's
what I thought. I was like, I can get one of those from PSA any day of the week.
Yeah, but that Remington rifle?
A 1946 Remington model. It's actually a Model 81. I don't know the real difference between the two. I got to look it up. But it's the same. It's a Model 8. It's a Remington Model
8. Yeah. No, they're definitely historic, and they have when you read stories about them, like the Bonnie and Clyde thing and all that.
Yeah.
That was the first auto-loading rifle like that. I mean,
big caliber auto-loading can knock a person down. Yeah.
Lola says we should still be getting Rick. He's just running a little late.
Okay, cool.
We should be getting him.
Big time hunting rifle too. For larger game and stuff too.
I have heard that it'll take out big game no problem. Like I was doing some reading, a lot of dudes will use it to hunt.
This might be Rick dialing in right now. Let's see if we can.
Oh, I don't have a 1911 here. I do have another Colt though.
Let's see. There we go. Boom. Oh.
Well, I just walked in, and I hate to beat you both when you held up your Colt and your 1911.
Oh no!
I have a Colt. A Remington, and an original 1851 Colt Navy.
Holy!
Oh wow! That just smoked us both, Walter.
That's a heavy flex. I mean, we haven't even gotten started here. Yeah. Jeez.
First of all, I apologize for being a little bit late.
No, that's cool.
That's all right.
We're glad to have you.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're glad to have you. Everyone, the ATF is in the building.
I'm not ATF.
Yeah, so we're joined tonight along with Walter and Patrick. We have Rick Vasquez, formerly of were you the chief or assistant chief of the Tech Bureau? What was the fill me in?
I held both positions for 18 months.
Okay.
I was the acting branch chief and the assistant branch chief. And then my last 2 years with ATF, I was the branch chief of the firearms trafficking branch. I worked for field operations for my last 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. So this is Babyface P and
Patrick.
Walter Keller.
Patrick.
How you doing?
I would say
more professional. We got a professional
he's
here.
Saying he's former ATF. I would still go with nicknames if I was you. Yeah. You never know what what. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, thanks for having us so much. Or coming on. I appreciate it. I know you were we were introduced to you, if I can make my face not blurry, by John Crump.
That is correct.
Yes, big thanks to John Crump for having you on here. Before we get into anything, these guys are pretty rowdy. We should start with maybe a little background for people who don't know on Rick Vasquez. Like, who are you? How did you get into government service, etc.?
I'll do a real quick roundabout, not take up too much time. I had a 21-year career in the Marines and was a weapons specialist at the Precision Weapon Shop at Quantico. I did embassy duty, security forces duty, and deployed all over different parts of the world. I left the Marine Corps, went to work directly for Diplomatic Security Service as a firearms and tactics instructor. Did that for 3 years and went to work for ATF as a what's called a firearms enforcement officer in the firearms technology branch. And I did that for 14 years, went up to, as I said, branch chief, traveled the world, learned a lot, especially on the regulations and the statutes. And after 14 years, I only did 14 years with the government. I took a very early retirement, lost a lot of money, but I finally realized the government was not for me. I was very, very pro firearm, right. and it kind of bumped heads with people from time to time. Now, I would tell you this: ATF, for the most part, the agents and the people in the field loved the work that I did. I literally traveled the world for ATF, and but working with headquarters personnel, trying to get the right opinion out always didn't work. And sometimes you had to take an opinion that you didn't agree with, because, that's just the way it is when you work for an agency, you work for a company. Let's use Bud Light, for example. Somebody put out that
I wish ATF would go the route of Bud Light and then
you see what I mean? Somebody put out a stupid opinion that ruined them. But that's not. And so I left ATF and walked right into the private sector. Started to work with FFL Guard, working for the firearms industry, and started my own brand and started an active crisis consultant, very high-end security company. Worked with a diplomatic security agent that I had known for over 40 years and Medal of Valor recipient, all kinds of worldwide training. And he called me up one day and said, "Hey, man, I've just sold my company. What are you doing?" So we started Active Crisis Consulting. I've since sold that, and it's growing like crazy. But I'm getting kind of old, and I have to start, getting a little bit of free time. So that's kind of what I do now. I work specifically for the industry. Did we freeze up?
No, you're good. I think we're good here. Good.
I work for the industry.
We heard most of
it.
We got it.
I'm doing a lot of testimony on behalf of the firearms industry. I do a lot of training, and I work as a consultant directly to the firearms industry. And I'll give you a quick example of let's say BabyFace, that's how I see your name up there, is interested in designing something new. But he wants to make sure that it doesn't get him in trouble and it gets classified the way he wants to. I will get that product. I'm a licensed manufacturer. I'll get that product, review it, and say, no, this isn't going to pass. You need to do this, and this. And so when he sends it to ATF, the waiting list now, they have 3 times the employees they used to have when I was there, and they're 3 times further behind. So now he doesn't wait 18 months for an opinion where they say, oh, this isn't going to pass. He waits 18 months, he gets his opinion, and you did the right thing. And I wish those guys who did the credit card key would have contacted me. That's a good example of if they'd have used their head and gone out and talked to somebody first, we could have eliminated a lot of problems. So if anybody's out there listening, if you think you got the world's greatest mousetrap that's going to beat every law known to man, let's get it checked out first.
Yeah, it's a long, expensive process as well, I would say.
Yes.
But
go ahead,
go
ahead, Patrick.
Your butt in prison is even more expensive to everybody, including your family. I'm just going to say that.
Well, what we say in the compliance industry, you may spend a lot of money up front, but that money up front is a hell of a lot cheaper than if you have to hire an attorney and fight a case.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't like that. It's almost this new way they've been doing it, and Walter would know this, I think, better than any of us, it's just set up for companies to spend a lot of money, which favors the bigger companies that have money versus smaller companies. What do you think, Walt?
And there's no guarantee due to politics now, that because ATF has been weaponized with politics, that your stuff, even if it's cool and you Rick would say that's not a machine gun, guess what? It's a machine gun, and
Well,
and and we've seen that with the bump stock. Come on,
Well, I think you were a big part of the bump stock, right? Go ahead, right?
yes, I wrote the Declaration for the Gun Owners of America. I do a lot for them behind the scenes that I don't even bill them. So they work in all these cases, and Rob runs the stuff. Hey Rick, are you aware of this situation? Have you ever seen this in the past? What can you tell us about this? So I don't even bill them for that because I know it's helping somebody in the industry, and they're having to collect money to pay their own salary. And you know what? Everybody needs to make money. That's what we all do. We all do this as a profession. But, they hired me for the bump stock opinion, and I put together a declaration, went up to one of the court cases with them. And so they don't need me now because they've got all the documentation. Now it's all the legislative, the legal aspects of it, nothing technical anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just for clarification, when I said that about how what the hell is that? Lola, seriously. Okay, just for clarification, I don't know what Lola was up to here, but she somehow connected to the van. I'm in a van, Rick. And Lola somehow connected to the radio. I don't know how. But just for clarification, I wasn't saying that, you're doing this for the money. It's just unfortunate that the way I think in the past it used to be someone like yourself, and you've done this, would look at things and go, hey, this is totally fine, and then everything would be okay. But just now the process has gotten a lot worse.
I am so glad you said that. We started an importers conference, ATF, in 2001. And I had only been with ATF 2 years. And myself and Kurt Bartlett, who was just a phenomenal old timer, put on the first one. And one of the things we did every year is we would go through what questions and what things had gone on for the year, and we would put it in a handout. And we did this to keep you from calling me to ask a question that should be in some book somewhere.
Yep.
So we provided this until, I hate to say this, the year I left Firearms Technology Branch. And now they have this conference, and I was called. It's going on. I think it's next week. They said, this will be the first one I've missed. And they said, are you coming to the conference? And I said, why should I come to the conference now? I'm going to hear how many cases were done, how many letters were written, all these different statistics, but I'm not going to hear one answer to any question that I have. So what is the purpose of paying a $750 entry fee plus going to Washington, D.C. for 2 days when it has lost its importance? And we used to fill up conference rooms. 1,500 people would show up, 500 people show up. Now, last year, I think there was like 60 people there, and there was more government personnel than spectators in the audience. That's how small it was, because you get to the point where every dollar is important, and why am I spending this money if it's not going to benefit my business?
Yeah.
But I'm going to take it one step further, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently putting together a handout. Of course, I'm going to monetize it. I'm going to start at number 1. How do I get a license? Number 2, when I get my license, what do I need to do? And number 3, all the way on. And we're going to put this together and get a good review of it, and then get it posted hopefully by the end of 2023.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That's something I'll be partaking in, because I am actively working on getting my FFL. So I got the business license, and I'm moving towards the FFL. So I will absolutely look.
You got my phone number. Call me up. I can set you up 100% from A to Z, and so that you can get through this easily. And I just joined with Bravo Store Systems. and we're going to create a help desk for the clients. They, of course, or anybody in the public can call in and get questions answered. They're a A&D 4473 point of sale company, and I just partnered with them just last month, and we're starting to move on that product.
Okay, interesting.
You sound like a busy man.
Yeah.
Well, I just finished up a year-long product, writing manuals for CDC. They're really getting their research material standardized. We had a 2-year program, and luckily my daughter is a phenomenal writer-editor and a former Marine, a stay-at-home mom. So this really helped her out, that she did all my editing and formatting. Because I tell you right now, I'm a rock. I might have that knowledge in my head, but when I put it down on paper, I have to get somebody with at least a kindergarten education to review it for me. So.
All right, good. Sounds like you're doing a lot of good stuff. Not obviously you need to do things for yourself, especially since you said you didn't, get like a big retirement package and all that. But I think it sounds like you're doing a lot of good things out there, working with GOA and other folks. So I appreciate that. I'm sure people will have questions. Walter and Patrick definitely have questions. You want to go for one, Patrick? Go ahead.
The main, to me, kind of the main elephant in the room is the ATF that you left the same one that's there today? Do you feel like the ATF that was is the same ATF?
Absolutely not. It's absolutely not. There's still some really strong people there. I will tell you this though. One office that has just changed for the better, unbelievably, is the National Firearms Administration. The amount of work, just think about all the new registrations that are coming in, and everything that's happened is falling on the back of the NFA branch. And that office used to be the armpit of ATF. And now it is just a shining star. And the other office that nobody talks about, and I'm only going to talk about good offices, because I don't want to be disparaging anybody. The licensing center. Have you ever heard anybody complain about when they put in for the license there's a stumbling block? No. These and are just phenomenal. And then the last office is the Firearms Industry Programs branch in Washington, D.C., and they do policy. So whenever I need to validate something, let's say that I know.
Walther Arms has been making concealed carry handguns for over 90 years, starting with the PPK. Today, Walther is based in the good old US of A and still builds quality firearms like the PPQ and PDP for personal defense and competition. So when you're in the market, please consider Walther Arms. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Walther Arms. Alrighty, so my apologies here on that. That's totally my fault that I wasn't keeping track of the time. So we do have like a time limit here. That's why the time's running down, and we heard the ding. That word ding is out. That ding is like our 1 minute warning here. So my apologies on that. I'll let you continue. Go for it. Finish your statement there.
The final office, FIPB, when I need something validated, their headquarters, I know what the answer is. 478.50 is on off-site storage. And let's say I'm not exactly sure what that means. So I'll write into their office, and I always provide an answer. That's one thing. If you ever write into ATF, don't just ask a question. Even if you don't go to anybody, do your own research and say, as I understand, the regulation says that I can do this in accordance with this regulation. And that's what FIPB's expertise is. So I'll get it validated. But if you just go in and say, hey, what's my nationality? Am I Mexican or am I white? You don't know what the answer is going to be. Because they're going to look up, and they're going to be very biased in their opinion in some of these offices. And they'll be very biased, and unless you hold them to the feet to the fire and show that you know what the answer should be, they'll just respond with an answer that who the hell knows what it means.
Okay, so let me see if I can just go back over that again. So if you're asking them a question ask the question, but then also give what your perceived answer of that is, so they can either negate it or verify it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things that you're getting now is you wait 9 months, 15 months. We're sorry you did not provide enough information. Send more information. What? You waited this much time, and that's why I hate to sell a consultant. That's why it's important that you don't waste, because time is money.
Mm-hmm.
So you just wasted 18 months. You may have invested in a project that now you've thrown all that money away,
Mm-hmm.
or you could have invested in a project knowing what the answer is going to be when you get your response back.
Okay, all right, makes sense. Let me get a quick question from the audience out here. Armament and Axes gave us $5.99. He says, "Why is the former ATF, quote unquote, why is he former AFT? Did he retire or get the boot? Sounds like he's on our side." So there's a question. Retire or get the boot? I don't know if you want to answer that. And if you don't want to answer anything, feel free to tell us. It's none of our business.
No, I retired under extremely good circumstances. I've won a government contract with ATF already. I put on a high-speed driving course for ATF special agents, and I share when I discover something. I share it with people in ATF, and they can use it or not use it. But no, there of course there are people that, especially some of my older office, that are extremely unhappy that I have testified against ATF and beat ATF in federal court on an arm brace case, and so they're not happy with that. But
Well,
Walter is flabbergasted.
I always love people that just can't accept reality. I mean, the reality of things is the bump stock and the brace and all these other gizmos are not what they've claimed, what they've been accused of. But it doesn't matter. There's political blinders on, so we got to keep going in that same direction no matter what. So
I agree 100%. I really hope this bump stock issue. I'm sure you guys heard that the Supreme Court, ATF has asked the Supreme Court to now get involved, and I hope they do. And I'm not going to wager one way or the other. I just hope that it goes the right way.
Okay, so that's relatively new development that the ATF themselves are asking Supreme Court to get involved.
yeah,
Yes, it came out today.
They think they're going to lose where they're at right now, so they're going to push it up a little higher and see if they get some special treatment. Maybe I don't know.
Interesting. And how do you? So yeah, let's get into that since we're here. How do you feel that's going to play itself out ultimately, Rick? Do you have some opinions on that?
And I do, and I hate to do this, but I got to take a few minutes to kind of explain how we got to the bump stock.
Okay.
Some of you guys might have been around long enough to remember the Aikens accelerator, and
that would definitely be Walter. He's
I know it too. I remember it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Well, Walter, I'm the one that called out a machine gun, and I'll tell you that up front. And the reason I did, because when you look at the way it operated, it was a simple machine. It had hydraulics, it had springs, and so once you pulled the trigger, it had a mechanism in there that caused it to continue to cycle. Of course, you had to hold it in the same spot. And believe it or not, ATF Chief Counsel did not want to call it a machine gun. So we had a huge conference. It went all the way up to the director of ATF, and it was with all the senior leadership staff, and they all sided with Firearms Technology Branch, myself, and Mike Curtis, and because he had been assigned a project, so we called it a machine gun. But when the bump stock design came out, they did exactly what we told them to do.
Right. I'm
They
just
said
I'm
it
just
can't
scrolling
be.
up some stuff with that, by the way, for anyone who doesn't remember. I remember hearing of it. I'm just trying to refresh my memory on what we were.
It was like pre-bump
Yeah.
stock. Before the bump stock had a
Okay.
mechanism in the
Yes.
back that
Oh, okay.
accelerated it.
Okay. Understood. Okay. All right.
So when the bump stock came out, the first one,
Mhm.
they took it to the letter. They said
Mhm.
in the ruling, they told us in the ruling, you said if it doesn't use this and if it doesn't use this, it wouldn't be a machine gun. So we
Mhm.
looked at this thing, and when I was in FTB, Farms Technology Branch, they were all gun guys, and we were like, "Holy crap! Look at this! This we wrote it up as not being a machine gun." This was so crucial that it went up to headquarters, and Edgar Dominich, the deputy director, took that to the Hill and said, "Look, we need to let you know that this is going to be classified as not being a machine gun." So everybody got informed that this thing was not going to be classified as a machine gun. And boom, it came out. And we all know why it is classified as a machine gun today. That was after the Vegas shooting. Um,
It's
Trump,
purely
the,
politics and feelings.
Yep,
Trump
100%
told the
politics. Yep.
director of ATF that you will find a way to classify this as a machine gun. So he's a good soldier, and he's the director, and he did what the president and the
Marvin,
attorney general
good
told
old,
him to do.
Hmm.
good old Marvin Richardson. Bless his heart. Uh, I met him. I met him personally. I've been to the mausoleum in Washington, the glass roofed building. We asked when we were there, why does it have a glass roof? And he goes, well, if they have a bomb in it, top will blow out. And
It's
it's
not
like,
glass; it's plastic
why
bags.
why do you have to
It's
build your
plastic
building worried
bags.
about being bombed?
It's it, it was a very forward thinking woke contract that was given to a very woke thinking architect to design the building. The minute that building was finished, it was over full. Since you've been in it, you know how much wasted space is there.
Hmm.
It's not built like an office building. It is just complete center goes up to the
It's open.
top, and that's all wasted space. So
Hmm.
it ran out of
It
space
it has a
immediately,
big
and that's why
yeah, a big atrium in the middle. Yeah.
Hmm.
you would
So it's
think
like a
it'd be
big
like
spiral
a
case
modern
going
museum.
around. Oh, okay. Wow.
There
Okay.
you go, just like that.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
beautiful though.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Well, maybe for an
uh,
apartment building.
yeah. I don't think I want. I don't think I want beautiful or cool out of my government agencies. I want them to be very small and stay the hell out of my business. Unless they absolutely have to be. How in your time, you said you were just there for 14 years, right?
Yes.
In your time, did you guys, when we're talking about things like the bump stock, the pistol brace now, in your time, did you guys get specific directives to make something not fit, make it into a machine gun or whatever? Or did they just give it to you and go, tell us what this is? How did that work?
That's a really good historical question. I got hired by two gentlemen named Kurt Bartlett and Ed Owen, and they had been there in the 40 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
and they made the policy. Period. Ed Owen
Mm-hmm.
was like, when he said something, that was it. And of course, he would take it to council. And
Mm-hmm.
there was an attorney there named Jack Patterson who retired right when I was hired, and he had the same pedigree as like Ed Owen. I mean, he knew the law. So they made a lot of opinions that people didn't agree with, but they're really based on foundation. And then when I finally became part of ATF, assistant chief in 2004, we still had a lot of authority in the Firearms Technology Branch. Well, I don't know if they're being told now to make certain items right off the bat, classify them as not being good for public consumption, or classify them under a law that would make them not usable by the public. But it sure seems to be that way. And I say that because of the new firearm receiver rule. the new bump stock, not the bump stock, the arm brace opinion, which Firearms Technology Branch approved. And then all of a sudden they start writing little nitpicky letters. Okay, if it's black in color and has a wider butt rear area, it's a stock. Okay, if it's longer than this, it's a stock. Okay, if you stand on your left foot and you shoot it with your right hand, it's a stock. They started that evolution of denying it. And so that has to be either a willful choice in the Firearms Technology Branch trying to find a way to overturn their own opinion, or direction from headquarters that says you need to find a way to get rid of this thing. I tend to believe that it came from Firearms Technology Branch because of the letter that Marvin Richardson finally wrote that said, if you shoot this from the shoulder, you're not redesigning it. And then after that, the new Attorney General gets involved, and the new Attorney General says, we're going to turn this thing into a stock.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the same time they were having meetings and stuff like that before Biden took office, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So basically that's what's directing everything, which is a nuisance for folks out there now. That's never good for the public overall when all these decisions are being made based on politics. If we have a health crisis, let's have the scientists and the doctors give us the best decision on what should happen.
Non-government employed doctors,
right.
By the way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Same thing for this stuff. If it's not a machine gun, it's not a machine gun.
One of the problems with all this stuff that's went on, they come out with you go to the tech branch, you get a letter. It's good. It's good for years. All of a sudden, it's not good. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good. So what happens is you completely destroy any trust that you had in the process, in the tech branch, in any of them, because now nothing's any good. That doesn't apply anymore. It's no good.
Yeah.
All those letters are void. Well,
Yeah.
what the hell is your word good for? Your word's not good anything anymore.
What about all the money you invested in machinery and building up these things and hiring employees, etc.?
The Gorn ruling is so confusing to the public. There's machine shops who set up machinery just to make 80% castings or receivers, or whatever you want to call them. And they sold them to real manufacturers. As soon as the frame ruling came out, they literally shut down because they did not know what the correct answer was. So we wrote in to ATF, and ATF posted a bulletin, said that all previous opinions on what an 80% receiver was good. But they didn't say that in the rule when the rule came out. So when you read the rule, you couldn't find that in there. So we had to get a clarification. So all these companies were in limbo. These manufacturers who didn't hire people to run a machine to make a receiver to a certain point had to hire people to bring people in. So the profit margin, in my opinion, right now, and you guys are in the firearm industry, is really getting smaller and smaller because of, like you said, I'm going to go to the extreme in my manufacturing processes to make sure I don't run afoul of the law, because I don't want to lose my license, and I don't want to lose my livelihood, and I sure don't want to go to jail. So if you're a manufacturer, then you go to the extreme to make sure that you're not violating any of these regulations that you don't really understand.
Yeah.
And that it change every other day.
Yeah.
I think it's a deliberate, lately what we've gotten is a deliberate attempt to destroy an industry, which I'm not really sure if it's ever happened in America. Someone will have to tell me. Has that ever happened before in America where they took an industry? Definitely it's never happened where they took an industry that's protected by a whole amendment in the Constitution and destroyed it, because that's what we have effectively going on here, right?
Yeah.
Well, under this administration, we feel the same way. Everybody who's in the firearms industry feels that way. Now, I will tell you that the firearms industry is kind of split. And I won't use names, but the big name brand manufacturers, the real big names, these regulations generally do not affect them at all because they are set up for every single process there is. They take a chunk of steel, they drop it into a machine, it cuts it to where they need to be. They have everybody. It's the mid-level manufacturer who's actually doing more innovation, but because he can't afford a $300,000 or $150,000 milling machine, he goes and gets a local machine shop to cut metal for him, and so that he can take that piece of metal and then he can make the complete firearm into a product, and then both people make a profit, and nobody spends money on a machine. Nobody pays somebody to stand at that machine 12 hours a day and pays them retirement and stuff like that. Well, you're putting that person out of business.
Right.
This isn't going to affect Colt. This isn't going to affect SIG. It's going to affect that Type 7 who just came up with that new AR-15, that new silencer, whatever it may be, and he's rolling. He's on his third or fourth year, and he's starting to make a good profit. Then all of a sudden, there's a stumbling block right on him. And now he's either going to have to spend more money or lose his company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty succinct. I don't know. It's the middle to smaller guys. What do you think is going to be the solution at the end of the day here? I think I might have already asked you that, but I'm just curious to think what you think happens here in the future before we go to the next section.
Well, you heard last year there were 500% more FFLs revoked than the previous year. 500%. What's it going to be in 23? What's it going to be in 24? They are looking at a way to eliminate gun manufacturers. Yeah. Well, what that does though, it only let me be a little bit more clear. There's a lot of guys out there that make a certain widget, and they know the regulations that apply to them because they only do that widget. Then all of a sudden they do something else, and they start doing violating a regulation they don't even know exists. So when ATF comes and inspects, they're not really criminals. They're not selling illegal guns. They're not putting guns out on the market. They're not doing anything like that. But they're violating regulations. So under this new administration, there's certain things they call the kiss of death. If you get to run a NICS check, if you don't respond to a trace request, if you don't verify an ID card, if you falsify a statement, I think there's 6 of them, that is an automatic revocation of your license.
Yeah. That we've got to take a quick break here. I really do want to come back and talk about this. I think Walter has some personal feelings on this. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like High Point Firearms and Full Forge Gear, bags and gear for everyday life. Did you know High Point is an American family-owned and operated company located in Ohio with over 30 years of manufacturing experience? High Point is proud to be the home of the working man's gun and your source for affordable handguns and carbines with a lifetime warranty. So when you're in the market, please consider High Point. All right, so once again, we had to take a little break there based on time. I saw someone shouting break in the thing here. We were talking about what's happening to a lot of FFLs out there, folks who've been in business for a long time. Walter, did you was there a particular thing you wanted to add here, or?
A lot of these violations, some are willful, some are not. Back in the old days, before Biden, and that's the old days. Remember when gasoline was $1.60 a gallon? People laugh about that, and that is so damn true.
We'll never see those days again.
When you would have some violations, willful, not purposeful stuff, they would just say, you'd have a thing, don't do this, don't do that. You might have a meeting, you talk about it, you know, you work through it. Now it's politicized. Now there's a mission. They've got a mission right now. I just went through a compliance thing and we didn't have any major issues. So my 4473s were all cool. Pardon me?
What's your business name?
Safety Harbor Firearms.
Oh, Safety Harbor, yes.
Okay. Oh, you know about you heard about it.
Yeah, he says like he knows it.
Yeah, I make 50 caliber uppers that go on AR-15 lowers. I know a lot about ATF, unfortunately, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
In the past, you'd get your hand slapped and your PP whacked, and you don't do it again, and you go on. Mm-hmm. Now, you're out. But there is a process to throw you out too. You can fight it, but if I don't know,
I'm going to explain that to you. Have you ever printed the Firearms Regulation Guide? Now you're old enough. You remember when ATF used to give it out, the 5300.4.
The manual book kind of thing.
Yes, they used to call it the white book. Have you ever printed it off and physically held it in your hand?
237 pages.
I just my person that was just with me, I said, oh, by the way, you don't happen to know one of these, do you? Because I had one from 2007.
They quit printing them.
She goes, no, the newest one the last one was from 14, and now you can get it online or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, a lot of that book doesn't apply anymore. Some of it does, a lot of it does, but the new stuff isn't in there. It's like
you're right, but let me explain how the book is set up, and then I'm gonna explain something else to tell you how easy they can violate you. The book is set up in numerical sequence, and it starts out with 921, which is definitions, 922, which is unlawful acts. So you have the Gun Control Act, the National Firearms Act, which is Title 26. Then you have 478, which is the regulations under the Gun Control Act. Then you have 479, which is the regulations under the NFA. Then you have 923, which is licensing, 924, which is penalties, and 925 was exemptions. So anything that you do that is a violation of 922 is a felony. So 922 starts, it shall be unlawful. That's why it's so important for everybody in the industry, to understand these regulations and statutes. So anything that's a violation of 922 is a felony. So they say you violated this. You forgot to check an ID card. You falsified this document, even though you didn't, but somebody did. But it's your responsibility. You can't find a NICS number where you ran a NICS check. All those things. And they say you violated 922. Now, 95% of U.S. attorneys won't take that charge. But they can tell you either turn your license in, or we're going to charge you with 922 point so-and-so. Here's the other thing. When you got your license, everybody who gets a license signs a statement. And I want you to go back and get that statement that you signed and read it. Mm-hmm. And they say, we covered 921, we covered 922, we covered 923, we covered 924. And they were there maybe 2 hours. A long time would be 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And you signed at the bottom that said, I understand everything that we recovered here today. And they showed that to a judge and said, Walter, you signed. Hell, I don't remember that. You just verified to them that any violation you did was a willful violation because you told ATF you understood everything that they instructed you on. So It's a vicious cycle, and you're 100% right. Before there was different parts of the United States where inspectors were more lenient, and some people, they got away with murder. And I don't know if you guys remember, USA Today put out a story on inspections, and oh my goodness, when the Attorney General got that there was dealers who refused to run traces. That is a serious felony. And they
Yeah, you don't do
told
that.
the inspectors, "You're not coming in my effing store," blah, blah, documented this. And that started this downfall where they said, no more. So they have you coming and going. So I highly recommend to anybody's listen to this to print off to 5300.4, put it in a binder, and start adding things that come in. With the new ruling, put that in there, tab it, new ruling on firearms frames and receivers, new letter that ATF put out on bump stocks, new letter that ATF explains what idiocy is because they are experts, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Start your tab. And don't put it on a computer. I hear all these young guys go, "No, I got a folder for it." When's the last time you opened that folder? When you have that SOP in front of you and you have a question, you pull that thing right out and go, "Hey, Rick gave me this class, and he had me set up this binder, and I'm going to manufacturing." Oh, yeah, what I'm doing, that is manufacturing under the Gun Control Act. I need to report that as a manufacturing on my AFMA report. So that's why it's so important to set this up.
Yeah, it's a good point. Walter is an FFL, so am I. I think Patrick is going through the process. You're just a hair's breadth away from being a felon at all times. And I'm sure Lola right now is thinking very deeply about what you're saying, because her and I both FFL.
Well, that's what when I see somebody like Patrick and say wants to get his license, and other people I say, do you really want to do that? I'm not telling you not to, but think about it. Think about it. Do you really want to? I mean, can you do? Are you?
It's tough nowadays, so I don't know if Walter wants to talk about this, so I'll just be general unless he wants to get more specific. But there's a mutual friend that we all have here. Walter's been friends with him for a long time. That was an FFL for many years, right, Walt? And recently lost everything, and they came down on him like a ton of bricks. And it's pretty, from my point of view, it's pretty sad to see like how what's the good word for this, Patrick? Like, he's really disconnected from America based on this.
Oh, he's moving out of the country.
Yeah, he's leaving the country. He's like, this is it. It's the end. I mean,
he's had his fill of. He doesn't want anything to do with anything even near the U.S. government.
It's sad to see that.
The way I explained it, it is that easy for them to take your license.
There's a little bit more to the story than willful violation. Well, just to say this, he manufactured 20mm DDs, okay, and I'll bolt action, and the gov has had it out.
That's
for
a
him for
special
years.
crime. That's a special crime. You can't.
Well, I would say the gov's had it out for him for quite a while. So when he did have an issue, they laid it on harder than to push him out.
Yeah, they were waiting with the pineapples with no Vaseline, basically.
He fought it in federal court. He spent a lot of money fighting this, and
it's sad. It's sad to think about what happened to him. And I guess there's nothing you could do, right? There's nothing that could be done.
You can fight all you want, but I've testified in trial numerous occasions. And the judge gives jury instruction at the end of a trial. And let's say that I didn't run 5 NICS checks. The jury instruction would be that the prosecution would have to prove that I willfully did not run those NICS checks, and that I understood that not running those NICS checks was a felony. How hard do you think it is for the prosecution to prove that? They're going to pull out that form that said, I knew that I had to run NICS checks.
Yeah.
They're going to pull out all this information. I mean, if you don't know about running NICS checks, you've been living in a barn underneath an earthquake for 20 years. Yeah. And I'm just using that as an example. So what is the jury going to do? The jury's going to convict him. So when they take you, you're going to plead guilty. You're going to say, guys, use my license. have a nice life.
It's like you sign up for a job. At the beginning of the job, you give them all the DNA evidence to convict you in the future.
Yes, you hit it on the head.
That's crazy.
Further than the obvious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stories.
And I got to tell you, I talked to I won't. There's some guys in the industry today that should be in jail right now, and a couple of them are very close friends of mine, because they tell you back in the '80s, man, it was like Wild West.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People were making false machine guns, homemade machine guns. You had grenades, you had everything. They'd come in. If you got caught, they'd take the guns away, send you off.
Yeah, we used to have this old coot. I say that lovingly, that came on the show. Richard Hoffman, the Hoffmeister, BWE Firearms. What was the place that he worked for back in the days? You guys remember?
Inner Arms.
Inner Arms. Yeah, he's told us some crazy stories, which were more than likely all 100% true of how things used to be back then.
It's documented that they were running the guns for the Contras, so they got away with absolute murder. Yeah. They did what they wanted to do, and they made tons and tons of money.
But who was really running the racket? The Gov was running the racket.
That's right. So they could do what they wanted to do.
So if the guns handing the guns to the Mexicans, it's no problem.
Yeah. That's so when we had Fast and Furious and Guns Across the Border, etc., right? How come the ATF didn't lose their license?
Well, look at the loss of all the guns at Martinsburg a couple of years, where the security guard was just going in at night and taking them. Nobody was even relieved. Nobody even got relieved. Hell, people got promoted.
Again, wow. Yeah, well, look at the dude that was trying to be the director, standing over dead Americans in Waco. We're not talking about dead. We're not talking about dead Arabs or dead Russians. He's standing over dead Americans. And that's people. That's.
Yeah.
When I went to that place in Washington, and I walked in that hallway where they had their little displays all set up, and there's the wooden Waco model. Mm-hmm. I just had to tie my tongue so hard. I didn't say anything with that wooden Waco model there. It wasn't burned.
You would have been so heavily flogged. We would not.
But
they would have put you in the sub-basement of the sub-basement.
When I went there with two lawyers. We met with Marvin Richardson, the guy that was a tech brain. This was in 2018. Mm-hmm. They're lawyers, everything. Everybody was happy and smiled. They like, oh yeah, we want to work with the industry. Fuck, they want to work with the industry. They had no intention of working with the industry.
Okay, you know what, Walter?
You're so full of shit. It's coming out of their ears.
Okay, Walter.
And I had to be on my best behavior. I had to walk into that place like a TSA thing where you get all searched and all this shit. And I'm going, why do you?
He's not emotional about this.
You know why you have a building with a bomb blowout roof? Because you shoot people's dogs. That's why you have that.
That's the quote.
And you laugh. You laugh about that, but they pull these
No, it's not funny. Yeah, it's not funny.
Over and over.
But it is.
Ask about glory hole. Use that word glory hole. Ask about the glory hole.
Oh, Lord.
So,
listen. Okay. Hold on a second.
When it used to be, you're growing up. Look, I'm gonna ask you this. When you're growing up, Rick, FBI agents, they were like the cream of the law enforcement guys. They were the guys, right? Look at the FBI now. It's politicized, weaponized, a bunch of bullshit. Come on. The whole government, you got a president that can't even walk down a set of 2 stairs. How are you supposed to take anything serious? I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
Okay, so listen, so hold on. Let's explain this because we got about 5 minutes. I do want to get this story out to Rick. No, I'm not going to let you vent.
I got going. I had to stop.
Yeah, and some of that was amusing. Rick is going to unpack a lot of that as time goes on. Okay, so why don't you tell Rick a little bit of your story? Maybe he might know from a different side.
I know the entire story.
Oh, you do? About the SHTF? Okay.
50 caliber uppers, 50 caliber uppers, right? I started making those in 2003.
Because I sent one in on behalf of another importer, exactly the way yours was made.
Oh,
Oh.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And that's what started the whole process.
Okay,
Well, hey,
this is
if
funny.
one's approved,
I
then the other one should be approved. And,
well,
and
okay.
so,
Let me just back up here. I never,
but
when I
they
started
did
doing this
the
in
opposite
2003,
way.
a bolt action upper shouldn't need any approval. Okay,
That's true.
because it's
But this one we were doing was being imported. And so firearms
yes,
to be imported
yes,
must be approved for sporting purposes.
and I know this person, and he walked up to me at the SHOT Show in 2017 and said, or 18, and said, "Did you ever get your upper determination letter?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't feel I needed to." Well,
And
then
then-
what do I get? What do I get?
Shazam!
Months later, I get a letter because he tried to do it. Now, well, there's other issues going on too. I mean, obviously, these things would show up in Mexico. They showed up in Brazil. I think there was pressure from that end of the deal too, political pressure.
The actual pressure came from Colombia. 50 of them showed up in Colombia in 1 year. And that's the ambassador of the U.S. ambassador to Colombia contacted the attorney general. And that's how the ball got rolling. Said, what the hell are these things? They're being sold without a license, and this is the way they're coming into our country. And 50 of them, and I already left the Firearms Technology branch, but I was working in the Firearms Trafficking branch, so I was made aware of all this information. And then of course I retired in 2016, and then I worked on the other individuals one because I didn't know what the final adjudication of what that opinion was.
So
Go ahead,
can I
Walt.
ask you something then? I heard through the grapevine that the upper question went up the ladder in ATF like in 2007, and then it kind of got to a point and just fell off the ladder.
Yeah, it did. They basically just said, "Don't worry about it."
Right. So here we go. I knew what was going to happen. They say it's a firearm based on its characteristics like a bolt action rifle, which when you read the determination letter, you go, everybody goes the same thing. They go, WTF over? What the hell are they talking about? Nevertheless, I serial number now, and I should have just kept right on going and doing that from the beginning, and not. I paused. I stopped. 3/4 of my income vanished in a letter. Boop.
Yeah, but also,
So,
wait, let's not go over the... So, I don't think that you should have to serialize an upper.
Well, I don't care what you think.
The reasoning was...
if I
Well, I mean, come on. Yeah, go ahead.
that because it was a bolt action, built as a bolt action, now I'm using the verbiage, as a bolt action receiver, it was looking at the definition of firearm, it definitely fits the definition of a firearm under the GCA. And so they said the only difference was the attachment points were made to put it onto an AR-15 receiver. So you could literally attach a trigger to that, like a Remington 700. If you drill a hole, you put an attachment for a trigger and fire it. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
What
So
their
what's
opinion
serialized
was.
on a Remington 700, for example? What is...
Is the receiver tube.
It's the receiver
the
tube.
receiver
Okay.
is, yeah.
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 Okay.
So my reply to that, and one of the part is if they said if it was operated from the gas of the gun, it wouldn't be. But what about all these manually operated AR-15 uppers?
Well, which ones are you talking about?
Anytime you remove the gas system and you manually operate them by pulling the thing back and forth, or a side charger, or the normal, you created the same thing that I manufacture.
Well, I would, because I approved a lot, and the industry should be very thankful
Yeah.
that I was there.
Let's take a
Because
little
I
break
approved-
here. I do want to... I'm sorry, Rick. Let's take a little break. We're going to be right
that's
back.
fine with me. I
Yeah, I
definitely
definitely
time.
want to continue. With Armslist, you can shop the extensive list of local and nationwide firearms classified, now with more confidence because of their built-in firewall. For only $6.99 a month for personal use, or $30 a month for business vendors. So when you're in the market, please consider Armslist. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Armslist. So, personally, what I think is really interesting about this, Patrick, Walter, Rick, is that this story is kind of coming full circle here, Because I remember,
Oh, yeah.
I was at SHOT Show when that guy came over to Walter. Then this whole thing happened. Walter had to deal with it. It's like going back and forth. Now we got Rick here. He was on the other side of that. The saga still continues.
Well, so let me go with classifying uppers as not being firearms, and there's a couple of criminal cases that this happened. So there was an individual that was taking M249. The whole channel is a firearm. The trigger mechanism is just a trigger mechanism. So that's very similar to a bolt-action rifle. A bolt-action rifle, the receiver tube's a firearm. A trigger's just a trigger. So they made adapters to put these on M11 lowers, and they sold them as a M11 machine gun, a pre-86 machine gun. Well, you've been around the industry. The upper on the 249 is a machine gun. The PPSH is a machine gun. So if you mount it on something else, it's still a machine gun. That now you have two firearms. But if you design an upper for an AR-15, and let's say the 5.7 or the Shrike, let's say the Shrike, the 5.7 or the Shrike, they were never designed to have a firing mechanism where they could shoot on their own. They were designed specifically for an upper for an AR-15. Another good example is the BRP MG34. Brian Polling's a good friend of mine, and he's one of my clients. I do work for him. He developed the MG34 to go on a full auto M16.
They are low.
Well, it's an MG34. It's an MG34 receiver with mounting points to put on an AR-15. So it's still a firearm. And the AR-15 or M16 is still a firearm. So even though he didn't like it, he accepted it and sold it as just a firearm.
Go, Walt.
But what I was saying was a manually operated AR-15 upper that has no gas system is no different where you have to operate the bolt manually. And there are people selling them. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, functionally, can you fire a round through just the upper on itself, on its own?
On mine? By itself?
Yes.
No.
So, okay, so what am I missing?
Well, let me back up. You have a bolt, you have a chamber, and you have a receiver. All you need is a trigger mechanism. So the AR-15 operates as your trigger. On some of these...
That's not what Hank just said, though. You have to add that. So
it can't be fired on. It can't be fired without the lower. But you're saying because it was a receiver, the logic behind what they're saying is because it's a receiver. So conversely, you should be able to make a specific lower for it that's only a trigger then, and not a receiver.
That's correct.
I could.
That's correct.
I could. Okay. I thought about doing that actually.
And so these AR-15 uppers, that some of them seem unconventional, they were designed only to work on an AR-15. I can't take an M240 and mount it on top of an AR-15 and say, oh, I removed all the trigger mechanism from this M240. You can't shoot it because it doesn't have a trigger. Now the AR-15 is my trigger because I still have a machine gun receiver.
Okay.
Well,
so by the logic, I could be wrong here. Go ahead, Walt.
In my case, I think you answered it the first question I had about Colombia and the foreigners, because I had never heard a word from anybody at the three-letter agency before then.
Part of my job was to go to. I traveled to Mexico, every Central American country, Colombia, Europe, to look at firearms that were being trafficked and to do training, because we can't change their laws, but we can help them stop some of the trafficking by saying, hey, we're buying all these AK-47s from Rick Vasquez in Huber, North Carolina. Well, shoot, they send somebody over to Rick's house. We stop the trafficking right then and there because they arrest Rick. So that was my role as a technical advisor, to teach them what to look for.
Do you have a question, Walter?
And I'll just stop at that, because
Okay.
to be honest with you, I mean, if you look at all the guns that are trafficked, whether they're bought legally here, which most of them are bought legally, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
a ton
they're
of guns that
straw
traffic out of America, so and
I
go
mean, they send
overseas.
people out, they
It's
give them
not-
money, they buy it. I know it's a straw
Yeah.
purchase and all that stuff. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to do that. But Bushmasters, every brand in the world ends up south of the border. Every brand.
I've seen them.
Yeah, some of them our government
And
takes over there themselves, or allows
true.
But-
to go over there.
But what I make doesn't go bang as big or get used in a bank robbery with an armored car, or whatever. I know that. So politics.
And I don't criticize any firearms. I don't say, well, I don't like your gun because it's 50 caliber. I introduced the Barrett 50 caliber into Marine Corps. That was one of my roles, and Ronnie Barrett is a personal friend. So I don't say you shouldn't have this gun or you shouldn't have. I don't care what you have, because there's guns. I got an 1851 Colt Navy that people would cut their wrist to have, and I spent a lot of money for it. So but we do want to stop guns from going into the illegal market as much as possible, because what did we talk about earlier? Politicians. So if that is just food for their mouth, it's not food coming in, it's food going out. Oh, so-and-so had so many guns show up over there. So-and-so had this. Oh, we look at these pictures of these guns being used in a crime. We've got to stop the sales. We've got to put these companies out of business, so none of our guns go down there anymore.
Yeah. So I don't think anyone, and I don't know, someone could chime in on that if they think so. I don't think any of us want guns to get into the hands of bad guys, either here in America or any other country for that matter. I don't think we want that to happen. But I think in the case, so like what you're saying with the story with the SHTF 50, I remember when it became news, we were seeing it in some different countries. People did whatever they did, and then somehow they wound up looking at this. Walter said first it went up and then it came down. Then the issue came out of someone else wanted to do one, and then this is how we got to this whole thing. How does all of that wind up a company, or the ATF going, yeah, this upper has to be serialized, but no one else making a similar thing has to be serialized? And then my other question in there is, I don't think you can fire that round without the lower. Am I wrong on that, Walter? Can you fire a round out of the upper without a lower?
Not unless you purposely do something really sketchy. But do you want to hang on to a fit? But anyway, I guess what it all comes down to is, once again, it's kind of like the bump stock. Word went down that don't matter what these guys say in this meeting, your letter's gonna. I just. After that all happened, I'm like, I wasted all my time. I wasted going up there. I wasted talking to him. I wasted not making a comment about burned Waco model. I just wasted my time.
I wish you had contacted me, because my client and I did the same thing. We did the same thing you did. We went all the way up to the director of ATF, and we were told no. So basically, scrutiny was put on this firearm because of Columbia, or these types of firearms, I'll say. And so when they looked at the definition of a receiver under the Firearms Regulation Guide, this thing, the tube, meets the classic definition of a receiver. It has a chamber. It's threaded for a bolt. It has a bolt. Lay it side by side with a Remington 700 without a trigger. They look like an uncle and a nephew. They look like bolt action receivers. And we can agree to disagree. I'm just telling you that how it occurred.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting. Yes, it's interesting to see that. I value the input on this, because it's kind of like the other side now of that whole story, and we've all been talking about it. And at this point, Walter's saying, "Hey, it is what it is," right?
Yeah, I didn't have $200,000 to throw away in the courtroom to try to fight it. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it would have done any good, because, like my friend, there was no jury. There was a judge. So the judge says no. That's it. That's it, folks. Done, over. Get out of my courtroom. Next.
Yeah.
That's you're
And
100% right.
the only one that benefits from that is the lawyers. Let's
And
be
I am
real.
so glad
Yeah.
you just said that about lawyers. Here's one thing I hope everybody in the world hears. There's divorce lawyers, there's property lawyers, there's very, very few gun attorneys.
Mm.
And I'm telling you right now, if you need a gun attorney, please give me a call and I will refer you to one. There's with all this stuff going on right now with the arm brace, attorneys are popping up like moles. Every day there's a new attorney online and say, we did this, we just got this stopped, and we just got this stopped. And because they know there's a lot of money out there right now, that lawsuits that they want to take. But there's just a handful of guys that have been in the firearms industry for a long time. And I can tell you, I work with the majority of them. And there's gun attorneys who will utilize me to do all the technical stuff, and then since they have the degree, they go to court and fight these things. But you don't want somebody to fight your revocation that did your divorce or did a murder trial. He may be the best murder attorney in the world.
Yeah.
But
Or one that's registered to do tax law. Why would you choose that?
Somehow I knew that was coming.
Have you,
Somehow I
had
knew
any
that was
run-ins?
coming.
Have you had any run-ins with Andrew Branca? I took one of his courses. That's why I'm asking.
No, I do my own thing. I work with a handful of attorneys. I've never worked with him. I mean, I work on, I defend the firearms industry on frivolous lawsuits against them. I do that a lot, but I don't talk about that much, of course, because
Okay, I have a question.
And you're not an attorney. You're working with the attorneys, right?
That's correct.
Yes, Walter, ask your question.
I have a question for the panel here. I'm going to use one set of polymer 80, and the thing that was just opened up with them giving money to LA.
Oh God!
I mean,
that's like
again. That's like saying you got free football tickets and down in the hood.
Well,
You'd have a line 3 miles long.
I just did a deposition on their behalf about 2 weeks ago by LA. They deposed me. I was working on their behalf, and I, you know what? I wish they hadn't settled, but they were getting broke. They were being taken through the ringers. Just every time you turn around, they were, and the insurance companies only pay so much. You know, I don't know about you guys, but
here's what the insurance companies do.
Yeah, so I mean, and the thing about that, I would say, is where is the protection for the industry of some guys doing something that is clearly legal for them to be able to do, right? And they're not violating a law, and then cities and states are just choosing to put these people out of business by just constantly suing them into the ground. I mean, that's not America. That's not how America is supposed to function, that they're able to get away with that.
But that's, I have liability insurance. And when I first started in 2014, it was $2,500 and a year. This year it went up to $5,000, and because I do firearms instruction.
Patrick.
I'm sure. But...
I write SOPs. I do compliance. So because I have that many things, and I didn't have insurance for like 2 months because I couldn't find somebody to take me.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be unattainable. It's going to be unattainable for the firearms industry to get insurance in America.
It is. And I'm telling you right now, if you're in the firearms industry and you don't have some type of liability, somebody sooner or later is going to buy a firearm from you and use it in a crime. It's just a fact of life. If you run a range and somebody has an accident and it's 100% their fault, they're still going to sue you because I hate to use this technical term, but they're born assholes. And they're going to sue you because it's not their fault. It's your fault that they stuck the gun in their mouth with their finger on the trigger and a loaded magazine and blew out the side of their jaw. It's your fault.
Yeah, it's I know, I agree with you. Let me get this in real quick, Walt, and then we'll get back. I
All
just
right,
want to
that's
get
all
this.
right.
I just want to get this comment from Armament and Axis. He says, "In my honest opinion, they went after SHTF because it's a 50 BMG on the edge of destructive device. Too scary." So there you go. That's that's in regards to what we've been talking about here. I do want to get into some other things while we have Rick. If Rick is having fun, maybe we'll get him to come back. But I know I'm having
I was
fun.
hoping you'd say that. I'd love to come back because
Yeah.
it helps me out as much as it helps us all out.
Absolutely, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying you being here. Any other questions, Patrick? Did you have any? And if not, we'll go to Walter.
I'm thinking. There's been so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. We did it. What did we not cover? Because okay, we just hit the polymer 80s.
How much does the ATF hate Cody Wilson and Defense Distributed? Because he's been on here before too, and it was interesting talking with him.
Funny you say that. The agent who interviewed Cody Wilson is a good friend of mine, and he's in Dallas, Texas, and him and I are. I don't call us business partners, but we do a lot of business together. And he does he picks up compliance work in Texas, and him being an agent, he's got a lot of contacts. He They don't hate Cody Wilson. There was no issue with hating Cody Wilson. Uh, the fact of the matter, he did what he did. He made that. What I think that people have failed to see, but I see this because I study the whole history of firearms back beginning of time, basically, because this is it all. If you're becoming an expert, you have to know as much about the history of something. One of the things that Cody Wilson did is he brought 3D printing to the forefront. Who knew what 3D printing was before Cody Wilson? Who knew?
Just a couple of nerds in their mother's basement.
That's right.
Pretty much.
They were being used in the firearms industry. I mean, and I'm sorry, in the auto industry, because they started using for prototyping. And man, when Cody Wilson brought that to the market, it has exploded. It is in every industry there is now. And the price, unfortunately, the price of the technology is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Or I remember, because I did a paper for ATF on 3D printing. I went and met with some professors and, looked at what they were doing and, put a real good paper together so that ATF could understand what it was. But there's no animosity towards Cody Wilson. He gets his license, and now he tries to stir up animosity every chance he can. But 3D printing has now absolutely taken off. And if you're not following it, there are a lot of guns being made illegally through 3D printing now. Do I think it's going to be the next trafficking scare? No, because I'm a bad guy, and I want a real gun that I can go kill multiple people with. I don't want a gun that's 3D printed with plastic, and I got to get a barrel that's in there, and I might get 500 rounds out of it, but the likelihood is I'm only going to get 10 or 20 rounds out of it. So it is not, but it is going to be one of those one-offs that somebody gets one made and he goes and kills somebody with it, and that's just going to create hell with shit.
Well, I mean, so I know we're going to hit the 1 minute time here, but look at what happened in Japan. That gun that was used to take down the former Japanese prime minister was not 3D printed.
Yeah,
that's correct.
That was
Changed the
was
course of
baling wire
history.
and pipe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the genie's out of the bottle on that, right?
I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I probably shouldn't say this, but there's many airsoft firearms out there that are built on AR-15 and AK receivers. I've seen them. I've traveled to Mexico just specifically to look at some. And we have restrictions on them being made in the United States, but these other countries don't. So if you ship an AR-15 across the land, across the water illegally, and you get caught, it's a customs violation.
Yep.
So if I can get a receipt...
We're going to take a
somewhere.
break. We're taking a break. Sorry, Eric. Rick. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of a DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization like TUSC Crypto. TUSC cryptocurrency is a firearm-friendly e-commerce option for online payment transactions, secured on the blockchain. So when you're in the crypto market, please consider TUSC, TUSC. I'll tell you what, you know what? I have not had this level of fun. Like, the time is just freaking ripping.
Yeah, no, I can't believe it's 8:30. This is awesome. I haven't. You know it's good when I am not filling the entire volume of conversation. Yeah. You know it's really good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Patrick.
No, Walt, you're good.
Interested in listening. This is all very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I cut you off when you were discussing.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
I had a question.
I can't even remember. I started laughing. I can't remember.
Oh, damn it.
Here's a question for you.
Okay, go.
60,000 tons, 600,000 tons, all that ammonium nitrate that went missing. Where the hell did all that go? Have you heard about that?
No, is that new?
Heard, yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
A while ago.
Let me look it up and I'll get right back.
What missing?
It's going to be a logistics issue.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not something big. Not
Patrick.
It's too big and too heavy to be 600,000. Yeah. Think about it in a tractor trailer. How many tractor trailers did you have to load? You can't hide
Patrick,
that. Everybody wants to say that there's something nefarious, but I'm guessing, your logistics issue makes way more sense than somebody stealing it to make a bomb.
Go back to the 90s at the gun shows. There was 100,000 UN troops in the U.S. Where in the fuck do you store 100,000 troops? You can't store
in your mama's
100,000
basement.
100,000 men.
NBC
what are you going to do with 100? You got to have 50,000 women to service 100,000 men. You can't hide that.
So, nowadays, okay.
When I hear that there's 30 tons of ammonium nitrate hiding somewhere, it's like, where do you hide it? Where do you move it?
That don't make sense.
It's gonna smell. It's gonna smell a lot. Wherever it's at.
If you read through the internet, they want you to think it's some nefarious
everywhere.
Yeah.
Where do traactor trailers go?
Yeah.
It's like Rick said. It's probably it's a combined logistics error. Like when your numbers don't match up. Next thing you know, you're missing thousands of pounds of this stuff. And it's like
Yeah. So what were we before? I just wanted to finish that. Where were we talking? Oh, we were talking about the pipe gun that was used against the in Japan and things like that. Yeah, I mean the genie's really out of the bottle here with guns in general, right? It's not just 3D printing.
No.
We've talked about stories in Mexico, for example, where you can't make guns, and people are using machines over there to make guns at night. We've talked about that happening in England even.
Well, here's the thing. People are naive. The Mexican has a very good military. Their army and is a very well equipped army because we give them money. So they have gunsmiths, machinists. They have parts. They have everything. And I provided training to Customs Border Protection, Border Patrol, all along the different borders to help them identify the stuff going across the border.
Yeah, I think your camera's frozen. I don't know if that's everyone else, but it's frozen for me.
Yeah, it did for me.
I think Rick's is frozen. I don't know if that's us or what.
It might pick back up in a second.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're frozen.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly fine. You're just frozen with a look on your face like that, right?
I can see it. See, my camera's even going, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change cameras, just go to my laptop.
Okay.
And see if that works.
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry for the technical
I'm going to say one thing about all this stuff and illegal guns and all that. You can't stop any of that until you stop the reason why people are doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to stop the illegal gun trade in Mexico and Central America until you somehow quell that need for that to protect their stuff.
And if we stop the guns coming in from the United States, these guys are billionaires. Do you honestly think they're not going to get them from China, Russia, Yugoslavia?
Eastern Europe.
It's
Come
going.
on.
They need to be very happy that they're still in semi-automatic firearms out of the United States,
Yeah.
because once hey, I've seen the RPGs down there. I've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
And they are, a lot of them are still coming out of the conflicts in the middle in Central America. A lot of that stuff was buried, when the Contras in El Salvador and
Yeah.
Baja,
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
countries were fighting. So
Mhm.
some of that stuff is coming north now.
Yeah.
But if they want it, just like the FARC is getting majority of their arms from China, so they're too far from us. So they find another country to deliver it. They have the money. They have the drugs. So
Yeah.
sooner or
And,
later, they're going to really get some good
Yeah.
munitions.
And Rick, you might
and
need to drop out and dial back in from that link we sent you, because I don't see it resetting here. I don't know if you switch cameras or not.
I did. So that didn't. I'll do it right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just give him a chance to do that here. It was just a fun conversation.
There was a video I was watching the other day of the most well-armed South American cartel, and they have equipment on par with like tier 1 government agencies. They have access to anything they want. Anything.
Yeah, I think we're just
well,
past that
the
now,
whole
right?
the whole reason China does that is they're trying to destabilize this part of the world. That's the fentanyl and the stuff and everything else.
I hate
TikTok.
to be that guy, but it's almost like some other countries have been doing that since the 60s or the 50s.
Well, the Russians when
Well,
the
everyone's
Russians were in
everyone's been
power,
doing that to
when the
everyone.
Russians had an empire, that's what they did.
That's
They used
exactly
all
right.
This is what people do. This is what human beings do to each other. I mean,
Screw
what
each
are
other.
we doing in Ukraine right now with Russia? What are we doing?
It proxy.
We're trying
proxy.
to
Yeah, we're
trying
having
to
a proxy
create a little
fight.
bit of order.
But this isn't
We're having
new.
we're having
This-
a proxy fight for some stuff that corruption's been going on there for a long time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
People have been protecting their domain with sticks, rocks, bows, swords. This is just the technology of today, and we have people that want to point fingers at the conservatives that say it's our fault because we like guns.
Yeah, you
Well,
couldn't stop it. Go ahead.
You mentioned swords and sticks and stuff. Run the numbers on real deaths, and I think you'll find they're very popular still.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Six
They
and sword
still function fine.
and hammers
Want
and
instruments.
things. A very popular way to get rid of your foe. So
Yeah, we've got a lot of ways to do bad things these days. But yeah, there's no, I don't think there's any end to this. And, really what we need to do, I think, around the world is, not just here in America, around the world, we need to make sure that the people who live in these places have access to these things. Because that's the one problem that we run into, right? Just the regular folks who are typically living in these places are the ones who get in trouble, who get arrested, who lose their rights, who can't have anything. The criminals have them. The cops have them. Every now and then you get the criminals are, and the cops are pretty much the same thing. There's all kinds of stuff going on, but the people are the ones who don't have access to that. And that's really where the power is, right? If the people always have the ability to fight back, against the
Rick,
government, if it needs be.
Can I ask a tech question about Mexico?
Oh boy.
Sure.
Have you physically touched their homemade assault rifle that the Mexican Army is using? Have you seen it
What
in
is
person?
The new version. I think
It's the one that the
like
I
2014.
What's it called?
Yeah,
I'll look it up for you if you guys want.
It's being made by the
X05.
it's made by the government, assembled by the government. None of so they keep it all in house. Yeah.
It's
did
called a
my
Mexican
best.
assault rifle.
Well, it's
to
the
visit the
it's the
facility.
FX-05 Zicodal. Zicodal, I think it's
I
what it's
never
called.
got to touch it. They wouldn't grant me access to come visit their facility, even though I was over there, working with a lot of their counterparts. They just kept thinking I was like a spy or something like that.
Are
And-
you
and actually-
what descent are you? I don't want to be like crass or anything like that. Are you of Mexican descent?
I am.
some
I
of
am.
it? Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
I'm kind of glad you said that. In the government, everybody wants to be politically correct,
Right.
and and one of the people I was working with, he walks up to me and he goes, he's acting all kind of weird, and he goes, what do you go by? Are you Latino or Hispanic? I'm like, what? I said,
Yeah.
what
Are
is,
you
what is
Latinx? Oh,
going
let me even start.
I said, I'm a Mexican. There's no country of Latino or Hispanic. You know,
And what's
this
wrong with
is
being
not,
Mexican, man? There's nothing wrong
that's
with being
right.
Mexican.
You
No.
can be El Salvadoran
Here's a,
or Guatemala, whatever you are.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nothing.
the Democrats want to group us, put us in groups
Yes.
so that they can control us.
Hmm.
You
I
know,
mean,
and I just so it got to the
growing up,
point. You
yeah,
know, all
growing
my
up,
good
Rick,
friends.
you had Cuban friends, you had Spanish friends, you had they're Puerto Ricans. Nobody. And one day I woke up and everybody's Hispanic, and I was like, "What happened? What's this Hispanic thing? What?
So I just,
What?"
my nickname was the Mexican. You know, I'm proud of it. You can
Yeah.
call me a Hispanic or Latino. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
listen. I do believe in pride. I do believe people should be proud of who they are and where they came from. And along with that, you can be proud of who you are, but not hate other people for who they are as
That's
well.
correct.
And all the
but
beautiful colors that are here in the world is what makes this place beautiful. All the different kinds of folks.
they try nowadays to meld everybody into one big happy family, and
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
don't work that way in the world. Everybody is one thing or another, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Hmm.
I guess there's a bigger voting block when you can call everybody Hispanic. I guess maybe.
I
Well,
don't know. I think
the-
you can also divide people. So, for example, this is my opinion, and everyone here could have one on it. But I think that Mexicans, for example, have done a lot for America. Have a massive part to do with America. Participated in world wars and all kinds of things, right? And are proud to be Americans. But I think when you create these things, people go, yeah, I'm somehow not an American anymore because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's about grouping people together.
Hmm.
In that way, it makes it easy to garner votes, go to this district, or
Hmm.
categorize you under 4473. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. They can go in and say who's buying the most guns.
Hmm.
Oh, look, the blacks in this community are buying more guns than the whites in this
Oh,
community.
laws. We need
And then,
laws.
oh, these
Yeah.
Latinos and Hispanics are
Hmm.
buying all these guns. Well, shit, that's South Houston. That's all there is. Of course,
I
they're
hope
buying
they
all.
are. Yes, I hope they are. When I see things happening in some states, we've got like New Mexico and stuff like that. There's like, remember that thing that happened in the Walmart in New Mexico, and unfortunately no one was there to fight back. I say to myself, man, I hope these people there, the Mexicans there, people of Mexican descent, have the ability, like, start taking that ability that you have to fight back. Just don't be a victim waiting around for someone to come do something. And I'm pretty sure that stuff happens, right? Everyone just assumes that everyone chooses the same thing. So just like I grew up in New York, right? Just in the hood, people think that the folks in the hood don't want to have guns and be able to defend themselves against the criminals. Of course they do.
But it's easy to target, and generally the elderly people are the ones that stay in these communities, because I see with the Mexicans also, the people move out, and when they ask for buybacks, who brings guns in? The people that need protection. They
Hmm.
Yeah.
bring their
Hmm.
guns in, and they get the $250 because we unfortunately are rules followers. So when the government says, we all say, I'm not going to turn this in, I'm not going to turn this in, but none of us here talking today want to go sleep in the same room that Bubba sleeps in with a chain around us. So when they say, if the law comes out and says you're going to turn this in, you're going to turn this in, we're the ones that are going to do it. And the criminals are not going to do it because they know about going to jail. They're familiar with it. And if they get caught, they get caught.
Hmm. It's part of the plan. They don't even get charged, dude. If one of us gets caught with a pistol brace right now, we're getting the full time. What is it, 10 years? We're getting all the fines, everything. But you catch a criminal out there doing it, they don't even get charged.
You're exactly right. And we saw it, testifying in federal court. Guys, 90% of what ATF prosecutes is previously convicted felons. And a guy who did 6 years for murder, did 3 years for rape. because the whole judicial system is about plea bargaining and getting them in and out of court. If I can plea bargain, I don't have to spend all my time in court. So I give him 6 years in jail for murder, and then he does, federal, they do most of their time. He gets out in 6 years, and he commits another crime. Then he does another 3 years, and then he commits another crime, and he doesn't, and he's in and out, and the only people that suffer are the innocent victims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Walt, did you want to say something here? I know we got a lot of stuff.
I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that repetitive criminal thing.
All right. So what are we getting into? We got Rick. We got some time here. I think we got like maybe 20 minutes or something like that here. What other questions do you have? Babyface.
Where do you see the state of the industry and the ATF going? Because personally, I'll throw out my personal opinion here. I see the Supreme Court slapping down the ATF on a bunch of things, bump stocks, pistol brace rule, things like that. Where do you think the industry is going, or from the ATF's point of view, what do you think is going to happen with the ATF in the future?
Let me clarify something, and if you don't mind, it's going to take a couple of minutes.
Go for it.
ATF doesn't write laws. They can't write laws. They can write a regulation to clarify a law, which they have attempted to do. And in reality, I'm not saying this in defense of ATF, the Attorney General basically told them, you're going to write this receiver rule and you're going to write this bump stock rule. I do not know if the bump stock rule is going to win if it goes to Supreme Court. And here's the reason why. ATF did this 100% wrong. All they had to do was say, we've determined that a bump stock, an arm brace is a stock, period. If they called it a stock, then when you attach it to a pistol, it becomes a short barrel rifle. So if they explain that, which I'm sure they're getting their ducks in a row if this thing goes, because they're going to want it to go to the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And if they go to the Supreme Court and say, look, we made a mistake, and I'm just making everything simple. We made a mistake. We called this arm brace in our naive opinion, they called it just an arm brace. But then we realized that everybody is putting it on a handgun and using it as a stock. And under the NFA, if you put a stock on a pistol, it becomes a short barrel rifle. I mean, that's very simple, black and white. So if they had held this, not even written a rule, just had a change of opinion and just said, the arm brace is now a stock. We made a mistake, period. There'd have been all kinds of lawsuits. But how could you have beat that? Because there's no regulation, there's no rule. As far as the industry is concerned, I think the big industry could give two farts about what's going on. The ones that were selling guns with an arm brace, quit doing it, and they go a different direction. They make tens of millions of dollars. Okay, we got to find a way to recoup this revenue that we lost on this product. So we'll find another product and go in that direction. The receiver issue for the big industry, 80% receiver, they're happy. They're happier than hell because now they don't have all these small Type 7s, these small gunsmiths spitting out guns that they can't do. That's taken away their market share because they're making complete receivers. They're making guns and selling them. So the arm brace issue for the big industry has a little bit of effect, not much. The frame has no effect whatsoever. And then the bump stock, that has no effect on the industry whatsoever. That's an individual thing. So if the bump stock is overturned and it's made to not be a machine gun, then that's one where everybody in the system will benefit because we'll be able to buy one if we want one then. So did that kind of explain it?
I think it's interesting. I think you said it before too, and the second time you're kind of saying it from a different angle, but the same thing. That there's some parts of the firearm industry that's benefiting from all of this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The big firearms industry. If you could get because I would tell you this, since I've gone to work at ATF in 1999, the amount of Type 7 manufacturers has exploded. I mean, absolutely exploded. Because people didn't know about, hey, I can get barrels from AR-15 and put this together, and I can do this in my shop, and I can put pistols together, and I can get an 80% receiver and build this. And that has changed in the last few years, and has really, really grown.
The Who Moved My Freedom podcast is made possible by our partners at 2A Commerce. Veteran owned and with over 20 years experience, 2A Commerce is the leader in custom e-commerce and web application development in the shooting sports industry. Clients include major brands such as Guard Dog Body Armor, Sylvan Arms, AccuFire Technologies, The Tactical Games, Warrior Knife Company, and yours truly, Hank Strange. Visit 2A Commerce and support this show by supporting them. Once again, visit the number 2acommerce.com.
All right, very cool. I don't know. I think that was a good answer that we got there, and I think it is very interesting. And I think you're really making a very astute point about certain parts of the industry benefiting from this. Not only now, but they've benefited before, and now they're benefiting again.
Yes.
Yeah. Go, Walt.
Receiver definition. ATF has no business. They can't change that legally. They can't change what. That's Congress's. That's the legislative branch's job to do that. So that's one thing that they don't have any. And
ATF can write regulations, but this regulation they wrote changed the law. That's the problem.
And how do you have a government agency that no one's elected to, that basically comes out with these regulations and decisions, and now you get thrown in jail. It's the law.
But I think that's because the politician, if there's a will, there's a way.
They let it happen.
The politicians are letting it happen because it's expedient for them. They don't have to take it up, and then these guys, it could just be on these guys. Yeah.
People are holding their feet to the fire in Washington now, saying you got to do something about this. Because where does this? I always use the example, Rick, of the EPA and catching rainwater. That's illegal. What the fuck are you talking about? I can't catch rainwater? Where do they have the power to say you can't catch rainwater?
The EPA just got slapped down pretty hard by the Supreme Court last week over those things.
It's that same thing. It's like there's no problem.
Pretty soon you won't be able to smell your own farts.
The crises are all created by the gov.
You're right, and that's what I said.
Homemade receivers.
They should have, if they wanted to win this easily, they should have never wrote that regulation, because they approved the bump stock. The arm brace by a letter of opinion.
Right.
That's all they did is a letter of opinion. So all they had to do was write another letter of opinion and said, we made a mistake. It's now considered a stock. And then there wouldn't be this fight over a regulation.
Well, so wouldn't we be having the same results, though, if they said, well, we made a mistake in how we interpreted it, and now we're going back on that? Because they allowed it for all this time, so they exist.
What do you mean you made a mistake? Yes. It's like, here it is. What do you mean? Well, we just we're looking at it the same way that you look at it. It's like,
see, they're not fighting about the arm brace being a stock. They're fighting about the regulation being written under the Administrative Procedures Act. And that's what the whole argument is. So if they'd have just wrote a letter and never got into this quagmire of rewriting a regulation that was stronger than the law, what would you attack?
But now also the braces are in common use by the millions. So it's not like...
Yeah,
so
I think
you just
it's
can't
out.
Say, oh, well, we made a mistake, we're sorry.
Yeah. They just need to back off of that. They just need to drop that. In my opinion, that's established, and they have to drop it.
When the braces first hit the market, Rick, I looked at that and I went, I can't believe this shit. I really can't.
I thought it was ugly.
Those ugly,
you thought it was ugly.
Those ugly AK braces and stuff. I'm like, I can't believe this crap. I stayed away from them for a long time, and then finally I says, you know what? The hell with it. I don't make a brace. I made a stock that accepts a tailhook brace, and And finally, I said, "Heck, I'm going to make a stock too. Fuck it," and we sold quite a few. I mean, I'm
That's
not
a technical term,
SB tactical,
right? Technical.
SB tactical or anything, but
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it's like, and so you take a pistol that's smaller, and now you make a stock on it that's bigger, so it's less concealable too. What's up with that?
Don't
I mean,
you know
it doesn't. There's
of
no logic.
concealability?
There's no logic to the SBR, the short barrel rifle. You can't logically tell me about a short barrel rifle being more dangerous than a Glock with a 30 round mag.
You, but
Can't.
not to get historical, but the National Firearms Act was written under the tax code because in 1934, the Second Amendment was so strong they couldn't make these firearms illegal. So they said, we'll put it under the tax code. $200 tax. You could buy a car for $200.
Yeah.
So that was so restrictive.
People didn't make $200 in a year.
It was an obscene amount of money back then.
Where would you get your fingerprints? Where would you get your passport size photo? You have to go find some police department. You might have to travel 100 miles to get somebody.
So why did it stand up then? Why was it allowed to stand?
Everybody was involved. The NRA was involved. Crime was rampant, and those were the guns of choice. They were actually trying to prohibit handguns, but that's the way they went, and they put the tax on those firearms, and that tax is held. So you're right. Today, everybody shoots short barrel firearms. Everybody shoots rifle caliber pistols. I mean, you can buy a pistol.
Yeah, but if the tax stamp was the cost of a frickin' Tesla, I guarantee you there'd be some lawsuits and challenges. And
absolutely.
Rick, I remember when I was a kid, my dad had a book that showed what these illegal guns were. And back then, an SBR was like a 22 where they cut off the barrel and they put a pistol grip on it. That was an SBR. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you think about that now, and that's what people were thinking in 1930s. That's a dangerous 22 caliber. But now it's like, I don't need that. I can just go buy a Glock and throw a 30 round mag in it, and I got more firepower than ever.
Technology is changing everything is the issue. And the government is trying to regulate technology by regulating what technology makes.
You can't.
It's a dangerous time to do that. It's a dangerous time to try to do that.
You can't regulate. You're never going to stop people from making things. Never. I don't care how much you regulate it.
You can't say you can't regulate thought. Look at the Democrats. They have regulated thought. They all think the same.
Well, and yeah. So I always use the example, Rick. If tomorrow they said you can't buy a sewing machine anymore, what are you going to do out tomorrow? You're going to go get a damn sewing machine, right?
Absolutely.
Just because they said you can't have it. So every time they come out and say, what happens when they say, you can't have any more AR-15 magazines, $300 a piece?
Sell a mega crap ton of them. Yeah.
Well, I don't think the NFA will ever be repealed because of the amount of money that Treasury gets a year. Because now silencers and short barrel rifles are so common because it's generational. It's generational. The young guys who fight in this day and age, they all use the M4 with a 14-inch barrel, and most of them are now using firearms that are silenced. Where my generation, if a guy owned a silencer, I just knew he was a CIA spy. They were that,
Oh, here we go. Got some guns. And feel free to throw your guns up here, by the way, Rick, if you want to throw some guns.
But it's true. I want to be cool, so I build the cool thing with the short barrel and the suppressor.
And you're familiar with that. You were raised with that. I like Winchester Model 70s and lever actions and bolt action rifles and stuff like that.
I'm a simple wheel gun guy myself,
But let me stop all you guys. I'm gonna stop all you guys. What you just said, the Democrats won them all. So
yeah, of course they won everything.
You're not safe with that Model 70. You're not safe with any of those guns. Even this thing.
You're not safe with that. You see that appendage that's hanging off of you, my dude? That appendage that's hanging off your little ding-a-ling, that is not safe. Nothing is safe from these guys. They want everything. Okay, the
Well,
cojones, everything that goes along with that. Okay, that's what they're going for here.
yeah. Nowadays, with these woke folks, yeah.
So let me ask this. I just thought of this, and it's kind of on the subject here. What do you think's going to happen, Rick, when so obviously the ATF was offering these free tax stamps to everyone. I think the time's up now. We passed the time. But there are people, I think they said it was only about 250,000 people who actually went in there. Yeah, 220. What happens when all of this gets overthrown? What do you think happens to those folks who went and got their free SBRs?
Well, this is something that people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an SBR today and I turn it into a full-size rifle, I don't have to notify ATF that I did that, and I can sell it.
You should.
Now,
You should.
I tell everybody, and I recommend. Oh, what'd you say?
I think
You should notify them.
Yeah.
You should notify
You
them.
should notify them.
Right.
And here's the reason why. If
Mm-hmm.
I sell it to someone else as a full-size rifle, and for some reason or another they get picked up down the road and they do a trace on it, they're immediately going to be asked for their NFA paperwork. And they're going to say, hey, look, it's a full-size rifle. I bought it from so-and-so. It just saves the hassle.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of your business. But there is no requirement. So these people who have this, because it's a tax-free, they didn't lose any money. They can write in and say, hey, you'll request your firearm be removed from the NFRTR, the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record. It never gets removed, but they annotated that it's no longer a short barrel rifle. But I believe very few people did not register their gun because we all believed that the Republicans was going to have this thing thrown out a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And they waffled on us also.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. Well, I think didn't Republicans push something forward, and then Biden said he's going to veto it today.
They're supposed to have a vote on it tomorrow. It's
tomorrow.
It'll pass the House. It won't pass the Senate. It's
yeah, but you still
largely
have to
symbolic and to see who falls on what side of the line.
For sure. And then and ultimately you have to make this happen. But here's my question, Rick. So what do you think will happen if all of that gets overturned to those people who got the free tax stamps? Do you think that will stand after it's overturned, or they will get bills?
The ATF can't take a tax stamp back.
Once it's registered, it's in the NFRTR. It's registered. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what they need to do, if they want to remove it from registration, is to write a letter into the NFA branch, say to remove this gun by serial number, blah, 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 with a copy of their Form 1 and have it removed.
Okay. But they won't get any extra bills or anything like that. The tax man won't show up on the door looking to take their babies.
No. And amnesty's forever.
Hey, thinks they're going to show up and want their $200
It's
back.
just like all the guns that were amnestied in 1968. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the majority of the registered M14s were stolen, but they were amnestied, and nobody came back later on when 9220 was passed, and they changed how machine guns were trafficked, were sold and owned. Nobody came back and said, hey, all of the amnesty guns are taken back. They would definitely have to pass a law to do that.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you guys have any other questions here? Well, go, Patrick.
I'm just curious if you were... This kind of goes in the same thing. Were you in and around when the Form 1 machine gun was approved back in like 2014? Do you remember hearing about that?
I was very familiar with that.
What the hell happened there? How did that slip through the cracks?
These guys they did it. They collaborated, and a whole bunch of people sent in Form 1s to register a machine gun. And unfortunately, a couple of them got through. They did not make machine guns. They were smart. Mm-hmm. They did not make machine guns. ATF, once they caught it, immediately picked up the phone, called them, wrote them letters, and said that your Form 1 is null and void, basically.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen here with the ATF while we're still fighting all of this? You know, are they going to go start looking for these pistol braces? Do you think there's going to be anything like that going on?
I was told 2 days ago that unless somebody has a violation of some sort and they get picked up, that ATF is not going to be going and taking any action for the simple reason, what if they get involved with some of these areas where they've been stopped, where so let's say they go to Texas and they pick up somebody who's a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition, and the judge has given an injunction, and they arrest them or something like that. They could end up creating a very bad political storm for themselves. So I was told by a person from ATF that he was told that they were not going to be pursuing this until everything gets resolved.
Okay.
It's a pylon. It's a pylon issue.
Yeah. Okay.
They pile it on if they catch it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
they'll
I
just wait.
guarantee if some knucklehead goes into a 7-Eleven or something and he has an arm brace on his AR-15 pistol, I hope that they use that as an extra whipping post to enhance his sentence in jail.
So, yeah, what about, and this is just a question for me, I've seen lots of law enforcement using AR pistols, and they're not SBRs, and I know obviously they could go through that whole process. Do we start locking those dudes up,
Yeah, they're not bought. If they're not bought through the agency, yeah, they're private guns.
Here's the law enforcement are basically, and the government are exempt. Now, they are told to register their firearms. It's a tax-free registration. If they buy them, of course, they would buy them on a Form 5 from a dealer. If they seize them and then register them, they would register them on a Form 10. But there are tons of firearms out there that police departments have that are not registered with ATF. Because they make them, they seize them. They show up, and they use them because
so what,
a lot
right?
of
Well, what about places where you can't even have them? Where you couldn't have an SBR?
Exempt.
Okay.
The cops can always have them. As long, let me say this again, as long as you're a certified law enforcement, and that's popped up with all of these police departments around colleges. Are they really police departments? And sometimes the state only authorizes them to have revolvers or pistols or something like that. And of course, you always have the ninja on the police department, and he goes out, oh man, we're protecting this community college, we better get 20 HK21s and some M240s.
I can't knock them for that.
Hey, I wish I had a letter. I wish I could get a letter like that.
I can't knock them. And some of those guys, unfortunately, that school shooting that happened in, was it Tennessee? I believe those guys had pistols, right? There was somewhere that we were seeing the body cam footage, and they had AR pistols.
One guy had an AR, and one guy had a pistol. The guy with the AR shot it first, and then the guy with the pistol just tuned her up. So he wouldn't. Right. He was pushing the guy with the rifle in front of him, pushing.
Okay.
And then he shot him, went down, and he said, "Drop the gun." They didn't, and he tuned his ass up.
Okay.
Okay. I got one question here. This will be the question of the evening. Las Vegas. To bump stock or not to bump stock?
Good one.
Well,
because that's going to be the mystery of the century, Las Vegas.
Yeah, what's your professional opinion, Rick?
I was already retired,
okay,
and I got called at home that night by an agent who knew me and said, "I can't reach anybody to help me out, so I called you. Do you mind helping me?" I said, "Of course not." Because if it went to trial, they'd have to pay me money to come in. And the guns, they had, cell phone photos of the guns, and they had bump stocks. But I listened to the video, and they had 75 round magazines. Now, I know that everybody right now, all 5 of us, have shot a gun with a bump stock before.
How the hell do you make it work? I looked at your Vice video on that. How the hell did they make it work in that Vice video? Because I've never been able to do it.
Because I've done it so many times.
Because I've never been able to do it. And then the guy in the Vice video was bump firing it from his hip better than you.
I know it. One demonstration, and there he goes.
Yeah. So
That was a great crew, I got to tell you. So anyway, I listened to this shooting, and there was no hiccups. It was just
impossible. Yeah.
75 round magazine after another. Boom, boom. No hiccups. Well, ATF was not allowed to look at those guns. The FBI swooped in, took the guns, took them to Quantico, and
they're
the
gone.
only person that knows is if ATF wrote a report for DOJ, and they said appears 43 times because they went to the FBI Academy and were not allowed to take the guns apart. So they don't know if they were machine guns. Only the FBI.
They had to have been.
You'll never know. You'll find out about the aliens in Roswell first before you find out about what happened.
Las Vegas, that shooting is the biggest cover-up there's ever been. And I'm not a conspiratorialist, but that is the biggest cover-up.
Of the gentleman that sold his ammunition, we had a really good case. And he was charged. They were trying to charge anybody with anything. And let me see.
Yeah, we're taking a hard break here. Sorry, we're taking a hard break. Sorry, we're going to come right back here and wrap it up.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of manufacturers like Safety Harbor Firearms. SHF is a quintessential family-owned small business, totally representative of the American dream. Safety Harbor Firearms is a Florida-based manufacturer of the compact entry stock and the SHTF 50 upper for an AR-15 lower. Also, SHF happily delivers on your Sten gun parts needs. So don't forget to check out stenparts.com and safetyharborfirearms.com.
All right, so let's see. One real quick thing. We're back here. Armin and Axes gave us $6. He says, I was informed by a good source that the ATF will be policing all public ranges for pistol brace. So there you go.
Well, let me explain something to you. ATF has about 2,300 special agents. About 25% of them are in headquarters positions. Now you have 26 special agents in charge. So you have 26 field headquarters. So these are senior executive service. You have 26 assistant special agents in charge. Then you have you have more than 26 because some big field offices have 2 assistant special agents in charge. So now we're down to about 1,900 agents. So now you have the resident agent in charge. And now you have agents on detail at the academy, on detail at Alabama.
How the hell did they find time for the glory holes? I don't know.
Now, he wasn't an agent. He was an inspector.
Okay, I snuck that up on you. Wait, that's my fault. I apologize. I'm going to hear about this from Lola later. She's going to be like, I cannot believe you had this guy on there in there and you snuck that in.
You're worse than I am.
With all the task force they have, and you guys, I'm sure have heard, they have task force in Chicago, Detroit, New York. I mean, that is one thing that this Attorney General is sending these ATF agents out to these bad places to try to help out. So are there going to be people, if these people have time to just, let me drive by that range, see if
stand at the range?
Stand at the range all day long. And plus, they don't have Starbucks at the range. So agents generally, that's all special agents and all federal agencies. You have to have a Starbucks near where the training.
Oh, boy. I'm just going to behave myself.
The modern donut shop, yes.
I'm not buying into any more of this. Okay, what was the story that you were telling? Because I agree with Patrick.
About Las Vegas.
Yes, Las Vegas.
The gentleman that sold Paddock ammunition, FBI went after him. And we had a really good case. And he ended up, not getting into it, he ended up having to plead guilty to something because the case got messed up. But we had a really good case. We thought we were going to win. But they went after him because they found his fingerprints on some of the ammunition. So they had to do something to prosecute someone. Because Paddock's dead. He's dead. You can't prosecute him. But I personally believe that some of those guns were converted to machine guns.
Yeah. It's impossible.
Yeah,
I've never been able to shoot a bump stock, and I would go to SHOT Show every year, go to media day, and someone would put a bump stock in my hands, and I would like, I don't want to even shoot this thing, and it would not work. So I don't understand how it was just flowing like that. Impossible. That'll be the only person that could capable of physically doing some kind of wizard.
You know, and I see these young guys who are doing it on YouTube every day, but they practice the hell out of it.
They edit.
You know? Yeah, and edit. And so you got an old guy who hasn't slept, who's exhausted, who's doing some type of drugs, and he stands out a window and just pulls the trigger and launches a 75 round magazine. I maybe one, but not 5 or 6. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, not consistently. Yeah. Okay. Listen, unfortunately, we got to wrap this up here. But man, this was a lot. This was actually really cool. A lot of fun, and very informative as well. I hope that you would come back on, especially if you have some things that you want to talk about. We will be happy to return the favor of having you here, because I think this has been great for me. I've enjoyed it. I'll let the guys speak for themselves. But thanks so much for coming on.
What I'd like to do next time is let me send you some bullet points, and you guys put together some bullet points, and then this was a hell of a lot of fun, but this way we'll have some things that we can give the audience, like real concrete stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you give me a few seconds, I can call out my company and Bravo Systems.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Hey, Rick Vasquez Firearms. Look up my website, my phone number, email address is all on there. Bravo Store Systems, point of sale, electronic A&D, electronic 4473. If you're going to be doing guns and want to stay out of ATF, and you're making money, you want to start getting an electronic system. If you're selling 5 or 6 guns, transferring guns, the paper way is the way to go. But definitely look us up. And
absolutely.
And we will take care of business.
Yes, and I think a good show to have sometime in the future would be a show about a lot of this, about what you do, and maybe, kind of like, obviously we don't want to give free advice to you guys. We would recommend you approach Rick and hire him, but, just giving folks an idea out there of what they need to think about if they want to build guns and get into this. There's a lot of people in the industry that
I can go bulleted format. Exactly what they need to do, and you know what? If they want to hire me as a consultant, they hire me. If they don't, they don't. I don't mind.
Yeah.
So we can do it that way, and I'm definitely interested in coming back on again. This was a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you. And we know you do a lot of work for GOA and other organizations. I want to thank you for that. That's good work, man. I'm glad that you have spent this time in your life doing that. So, and I don't want to let Walter, and then I'll let Patrick go here. Walt, you could tell people stuff or say something to Rick if you want to before we wrap up.
My turn?
Yes, go, Walt.
Oh, thanks, Rick, for give me some insight on my saga. You added another level to it, which I'm over it. Trust me. Safety Hour Firearms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and on player here, and then Dirtfoot Racing, mini bike stuff. I got a new build coming up for mini bikes. I do mini bikes, Rick, too. That's fun.
Yeah, there you go. And
of course, Den Parts. So
there you go.
Check that out.
Yeah. So Patrick,
YouTube.com/BabyFaceP, Instagram _FaceP. I have lots of stuff in the works, and I know it's been like 5 weeks of me saying that in a row. I do. I promise I do. We got a 5-month-old. I got to find the time to get it done, and it just hasn't presented itself yet. So soon, eventually, sometime.
Yes, absolutely. And as we are losing, it looks like I'm losing the internet here.
Yep.
I will ask Rick, give us some words of wisdom before we get out of here, Rick, and then you can stay there, but I'll end it.
The best words of wisdom is read the firearms regulations.